The day has finally arrived for the planning of the upcoming tournament. Sheena Elisa steps forward and begins explaining the rules. She wastes no time and immediately tells everyone that this special match will be unlike any normal Kengan match. This statement grabs everyone's attention. Sheena continues, explaining that the match will follow an irregular set of rules. Contestants will fight over a coin-shaped device, which they call a symbol. The fight will take place on Ganryo Island, with all Kengan Association members stationed outside the arena to watch. Suddenly, Cosmoimai grabs a mic and asks if they'll be using the entire island as the arena, pointing out that it might be too big to hold a proper match. Sheena acknowledges his question and clarifies that the event organizers have decided to divide the island into 4 sections. Each section will be closed off over time, starting from the outermost area. Any participants left behind in a closed section will be disqualified, and the last remaining contestants will gather in the Kengan Dome, which will serve as the final arena, so whoever arrives there with the symbol will be declared the winner. The CEO of Gundai then raises a question: what happens if the symbol is left behind in one of the closed areas? Sheena answers, stating that the contestant who held the symbol for the longest time will be declared the winner. She also reveals that all participants will be given a device that shows the symbol's location. Sheena then announces that the match will take place from sunset to sunrise, which causes some of the audience members to groan in frustration. Suddenly, Kono raises his hand and asks if contestants are allowed to bring their own food. Sheena confirms that they can, but warns that all belongings will be inspected. Kono breathes a sigh of relief, while Jose calls him bold for asking such a question. Sheena then invites anyone with complaints about the rules to speak up. She concludes by revealing the prize: the victor of the tournament will receive 1 billion yen, along with a bonus prize, 1 wish, granted within reason. Hearing this, the entire audience lights up with excitement, their expressions now filled with determination. Later that day, we see Yamashita sitting in a restaurant with Kushida, Rin and Akiyama, commenting on how complicated the rules are. Kushida agrees, but Akiyama reassures them that registration will stay open until the match begins. Kushida wonders aloud how many people will sign up, pointing out that the rules are brutal, especially with 1 billion yen and a wish on the line. She also mentions that the organizers are allowing one versus many fights, meaning the strongest fighter could easily get mobbed. Yamashita reminds her that Shin Wulong personally agreed to those rules, and Akiyama confirms this, adding that Shin's associates were present when they were established. That alone shows how confident they are that Shin will win. Seeing all of this, Yamashita realizes their team will need absolute unity if they want to stand a chance. Kushida reassures him that their roster will mostly be made up of fighters from the Annihilation Tournament and other top competitors. They all know each other, so working together and strategizing makes sense. One fighter could hold the symbol while the others protect him, and if he gets in trouble, he can simply pass it on to someone else. Yamashita considers the idea but worries about the bonus prize, noting how much more valuable it is than the 1 billion yen reward. Kushida assumes the wish must have limits, and will likely ban unethical wishes. However, Akiyama doubts this, since the Kengan Association already has ties to assassins. She's also concerned about whether the wish could affect their unity. The scene shifts to a park late at night, where Kore Karora and Oma are walking together. Their quiet moment is interrupted when someone calls out to Oma. Oma acknowledges him, reflecting that the tournament rules were confusing, but he remains confident that he will be the last man standing. Shin admits that he's been wanting to say this for a long time. Have at you, Oma Takeda. The scene then shifts to Yamashita's house, where Akiyama, Lihito, Ryuki, Koga, and Kokoro go over the rules. Lihito asks what happens if the device they are carrying is destroyed, and Akiyama explains that it will be replaced if broken accidentally, but deliberate destruction results in disqualification. Lihito jokingly asks if eating it would work, only to learn that it would also be a disqualification. Frustrated at the lack of loopholes, Lihito grumbles, but Akiyama reminds them that trying to circumvent the rules is a waste of time. Lihito disagrees, saying that gaming the system could be worth it, and Ryuki supports the idea. Kokoro asks if a contestant who gets left behind as the arena closes off will be disqualified, which Akiyama confirms. Kokoro follows up, asking whether a fighter's entire body must be in the safe zone or if only part of it counts. Akiyama explains that the system tracks fighters through the wristwatch device, which can be worn on the leg or arm. If the device is outside the safe zone, the fighter will be disqualified. Entering a closed-off arena also leads to disqualification, but as long as the device is within the safe zone, the fighter remains safe. Once the rules are clear, Koba asks Kokoro why he joined the tournament. Kokoro says he is doing it mostly for pride, since they have beaten him repeatedly, and he is determined to do better in the future. Yamashita feels encouraged by how well the Kengan Association team is coming together and wonders how things are going over at Purgatory. The scene shifts again, this time to an art museum, where Toyota and Nogi explain the rules to the Purgatory gladiators. Afterward, Nogi emphasizes that both associations must work together if they hope to defeat this enemy. Toyota then announces a bonus reward for anyone who registers for the tournament. Hearing the news causes the entire audience to mutter among themselves, something Toyota admits he didn't expect. He notes that word of the connector has already spread to Purgatory, so he can't blame them for hesitating, though he trusts he can rely on his A-listers. As the crowd begins backing out of the tournament, Carlos Middle remarks that they are all turning cowardly. Rolón dismisses the concern, saying it doesn't matter as long as the A-listers remain. Toa Muto agrees, adding that they never needed the lower-tier fighters anyway and pointing out that they still have Arashiyama and Kim, which forms a solid team. Something seems to bother the Falcon, and Jose takes notice, asking what's wrong. Falcon wonders whether Lou will be joining them or if the other fighter might appear. Rolón assures them that Lou can be counted on, but says the other fighter should be forgotten since his career as a gladiator is over. The scene shifts to a hospital, where Lu Dongchang is seen walking down a hallway to visit someone. As he approaches the room, he reflects that his time has finally come to destroy the corrupt society that used his friends. He vows to crush the worm and its leader to avenge them, even if it costs him his life. Entering the room, he greets the patient, referred to as John Doe, and casually remarks that it is a lovely day for a walk. He mentions that he has brought souvenirs for the patient. Suddenly, the patient speaks, thanking Lou for visiting again. Hearing him say his name, Lou realizes that the patient's memories have returned. The patient apologizes for causing him worry, asks how long he has been unconscious, and states that he remembers everything. He says that he must leave, revealing himself as Nicolas Lebanner, whose real name is Jean-Luc Belmondo, a gladiator from Purgatory who has now fully reawakened. Jean was a French national who had formerly served in the French Special Forces. During his service, he met Nicolas Lebanner and formed a close bond with him. But while deployed in a war zone, Nicolas committed atrocities, murdering civilians and wiping out their entire unit. Jean was the only survivor, managing to defeat Nicolas and seemingly kill him. From that day on, Jean assumed Nicolas's name and identity. Terashi recounts this history as the truth of Jean-Luc Belmondo's past. Lou, unsettled, questions why Terashi had dug up this information. Terashi calmly explains that he is in the hitman business. He reassures Lou that the hit on Jean has been called off, as he had withdrawn from the job upon discovering that Nicolas was not who he claimed to be. Terashi reported his findings to his client, the French government, but notes that this is where things became strange. During Nicolas's rampage, he fully dismembered his victims, but when investigators examined the scene, they found no trace of Nicolas among the remains. Hearing this, Lou deduces that the real Nicolas must still be alive. Terashi suggests that Jean's memories may have been muddled by trauma, leading him to believe he had killed Nicolas. But with the help of a contact, Terashi managed to track down the real Nicolas. He hands Lou a photo showing him standing alongside powerful members of the Worm. This proves that the real Nicolas had worked with the organization at least at some point. Terashi speculates that if Nicolas is still aligned with them, he may appear in the upcoming special match. Lou is stunned by this revelation and asks if Jean is aware of the truth. Terashi doubts it, believing that Jean is slowly repairing his memories subconsciously. He suggests that Jean may at least remember that Nicolas isn't dead, but that is as far as his memory seems to go. Terashi concludes that Jean should not be involved in the special tournament. Lou then asks if Terashi will be participating, but Terashi declines, believing that his presence wouldn't make a difference. Instead, he decides to leave Japan entirely, saying there is too much trouble for him to stay. As he walks away, he remarks that he will move to a country with little law and order and focus on his main line of work. Before leaving, he tells Lu this may be the last time they see each other, bids him farewell, and jokingly calls him a sucker. Lu replies that Terashi is just as much of a sucker as he is, and says goodbye. After their conversation, Lu realizes he still has much work to do. He resolves to keep Jean from entering the tournament, regardless of the rules, and declares that he will eliminate both the connector and Nicholas. The scene then shifts to Nepal, where a group of tribesmen wait for a plane to land. When it arrives, Kono steps out. Yaku greets him, asking if his flight was safe since they saw the plane wobbling on approach. Yaku also teases him about gaining weight, but Kono explains that he actually lost 10 kilos. Kono was originally from a mountain tribe in Nepal, scouted for his natural fighting ability before becoming a Japanese citizen. Now, he is a wrestler signed with Super Japan Pro Wrestling. After some small talk, Yaku mentions the growing trouble in Japan and asks if Kono intends to fight the connector as well. Kono answers that Oma once saved his life and Ryuki is a close friend, so he cannot stand by while they face danger. Yaku then shares what the village elder's grandfather once said about the connector, stating that a monster lives deep in the mountains of China. He was described as the terrible wind with pointed claws, a being that is everywhere and yet nowhere. No attack can harm him because the wind is nowhere, but there is no escaping him because the wind is everywhere. Yaku warns that such a force cannot be defeated, and asks if Kono still plans to fight him. Kono stands firm, declaring that he will fight the connector and become a war god for the sake of his friends. Impressed by his determination, Yaku says it is time to return to their motherly mountain. However, their journey home will take longer than expected, as Kono's weight damages the pickup truck's engine. Things are looking pretty interesting for this upcoming tournament. I just hope they execute this idea well, and deliver with this one. I'm not sure how Oma plans to defeat Shin since he's literally leagues above him, but maybe Shin will nerf himself to give Oma a chance like he did with Mukaku. We could also see a rematch between Kuroki and Shin, which I'm looking forward to. Everything is being set up right now and I really hope they execute this idea properly. Let me know what you guys think about it, and which fighters do you think will be eliminated in the early stages of the tournament. That's all for today, so I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.